You probably know this place. Dragonsreach is one of the most iconic locations in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It's the seat of the Jarl of Whiterun and the first palace most players visit when reporting the return of the dragons. But tucked behind a door in this majestic hall is something that once struck me as weird. There is a dungeon right under the Jarl's throne room. Prisoners are held just steps away from the seat of power. Why would anyone design a palace this way? Isn't that a security nightmare? If their prisoners escaped, they'd have a straight shot to the main hall, maybe even the Jarl's quarters. Is this just a gameplay shortcut? Or is there something more? Something rooted in real medieval history? You probably heard of the Tower of London, a fortress, a royal palace, and a prison all in one. It was built by William the Conqueror in the early 1080s to consolidate his power and crush potential rebellions. By 1100, the fortress wasn't just home to royalty, it was also a prison for those who dared to oppose them. The tower perfectly captures how power worked in the Middle Ages. Unlike today's governments, where power is split, medieval rule was concentrated in a single person. The king wasn't just a ruler, he was the lawmaker, the judge, the general, and sometimes even the executioner. And so, the royal castle became a living symbol of that absolute power. The monarch lived at the top, while directly beneath in the dungeons sat those who challenged his rule. So, is it all just about symbolism and medieval ideas of power? Not quite. There were practical reasons too for placing their dungeon right next to the seat of authority. In medieval Venice, that seat was the Doge Palace. Several prison cells were built directly into its southern wing, occupying the entire ground floor beneath the ruling chambers. This setup had its advantages. There was no need for a separate prison building, a new staff, or even dedicated guards. Palace guards simply doubled as wardens, and in a bizarre twist, prisoners were expected to pay for their own imprisonment, including the wages of their guards. In 1275, for example, a man named Simon Stana was ordered to compensate his guards and those charged with his custody by Lord Doge and his council. And since their prisons were just downstairs, the Doge and his council could visit the inmates personally. In fact, the lower cells were connected to the Great Council Hall by a private staircase. Physical centrality also made everything easier. Court officials, clerks, even creditors had direct access to the prisoners. It simplified monitoring and made abuse harder to hide. Sounds familiar? That door to the dungeon in Dragonsreach. Maybe it's not a design flaw, maybe it's medieval logic. So yeah, maybe that dungeon door in Dragonsreach isn't lazy game design after all. Maybe it's just good old medieval practicality, and in a setting like Skyrim, that's exactly the kind of logic that makes sense. I won't pay for this.